The town of Red Mesa sat in the heart of the wild desert, where the land stretched for miles in every direction, offering little mercy to those who called it home. A dusty town of weathered wooden buildings. The streets were alive with the rattle of wagons and the murmur of voices, but it was a saloon where the real drama unfolded. Every day, a new chapter in the lawless history of the West was written in the dark corners of that establishment. And today, the story would be one no one in Red Mesa would ever forget. The auction block stood in the center of town, a cruel symbol of the frontier's harshest realities. Under the relentless sun, the town's residents gathered in a loose crowd, waiting for the next event to unfold. Men, hardened by the brutal landscape, stood side by side with women who had grown accustomed to the rawness of life here. Everyone knew why they were gathered. The auction of a woman, a young virgin who had been captured in a raid on her family's ranch just weeks before. Her name was Lily. Lily's heart pounded as she stood on the wooden platform, her hands trembling beneath the ropes that held her wrists. She had heard whispers about this day. A man would buy her, would own her, and she would be at his mercy. But no one could prepare her for the suffocating humiliation she felt, the roughness of the rope cutting into her skin, and the weight of dozens of eyes upon her. She was a virgin, young and innocent, and the harshness of the frontier had already scarred her deeply. Her family had been taken from her. Her father killed by marauding bandits, her mother lost in the chaos. Now, she was just another piece of livestock for the highest bidder. The auctioneer's voice rang out, cutting through the air. "Step right up, gentlemen. The finest piece of land's on display today. Boys, don't miss out on this one." Lily's head dropped, her long auburn hair cascading down over her face as she stood, helpless. She longed to run, to flee into the desert and disappear into the vast, endless horizon. But the ropes, the guards, and the unforgiving terrain kept her tethered to this nightmare. And then she saw him. At the far edge of the crowd, a cowboy stood, his dark eyes hidden beneath the brim of his hat. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore a long duster coat that swayed in the wind. His face was chiseled, rough with stubble, and his posture was one of quiet authority. He was just one of many men, but something about him caught Lily's attention. There was a strength in his gaze that spoke of survival, of someone who had seen more than his fair share of violence. And yet, there was a tenderness in his eyes, something that seemed out of place in the cold, dusty town of Red Mesa. The auctioneer's voice brought her back to the present. "Anyone here looking for a fine piece of work? Look no further. We have ourselves a beauty, fresh from the hills, with all the right qualities. She's never been touched, a pure virgin, ready to be taken home." Lily's breath hitched. She felt the tears burn behind her eyes, but she forced them back. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. But when the auctioneer turned to crowd, his hands sweeping over her body like she was an object, Lily made a decision. She wasn't going to stand there and wait for someone to own her. She wasn't going to let herself become one more victim in this lawless world. Before anyone could stop her, she broke free. With a strength fueled by desperation, Lily twisted her body, slipping free of the ropes that bound her hands, and bolted toward the back of the platform. The crowd murmured in confusion as she ran, her feet pounding against the wooden boards of the town square. She could hear the shouts behind her, the sound of boots and spurs following her wake. But she didn't dare look back. The sun beat down on her, her breath coming in sharp gasps as she ran toward the edge of the town. Her feet burned, but she couldn't stop now. If she could just make it to the desert, into the open expanse of nothingness, she might have a chance. But as she neared the edge of town, a hand grabbed her arm, pulling her back with strength that took her by surprise. She yelped, trying to break free, but the cowboy's grip was ironclad. His other hand reached for her waist, pulling her close. "Let go of me!" Lily cried, struggling in his grasp. "Easy now." The cowboy's deep voice rumbled in her ear. "You don't want to make a run for it. Not with these folks after you." Lily's chest heaved with panic, but the cowboy's voice was calm, steady. His presence was powerful, and somehow it had a calming effect on her, even in the midst of her fear. "You're not going anywhere, miss," he said, his voice softer now, almost comforting. "But I'll make sure you don't end up in the wrong hands." Lily's heart raced as he turned her around, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. She saw something in his gaze, a flicker of understanding, of recognition, that made her hesitate. "I'm not here to hurt you," the cowboy added. "I'm just here to make sure you get the protection you deserve." Protection. Lily's mind whirled as she processed his words. Was this man different, or was he just like the others? Before she could ask, the auctioneer's voice rose again. "Come now, folks. We can't have our beautiful prize running off like that. Who'll make the first bid?" Lily's heart sank. She had thought for a moment that the cowboy was offering her something different, but now she could see the cold reality of the situation. She was still nothing more than an object to be bought and sold. And then the cowboy did something that changed everything. "I'll take her," he said, his voice firm, cutting through the noise. "I'll take her for $100. The crowd fell silent. The auctioneer's eyes widened in surprise. $100, he repeated, his voice almost incredulous. "You sure, cowboy? That's a hefty price for a woman like her." "I'm sure," the cowboy said, his jaw tightening as he reached for his wallet. He slapped the money onto the auctioneer's table, not looking away from Lily as he did. The auctioneer blinked, clearly taken aback, but he took the money without protest. "Sold," he announced. To the cowboy, Lily stood frozen, staring at the cowboy. What did you just do?" she whispered. "I just bought you, miss," he said, his voice soft yet confident. "And I'm taking you with me. You're not going to be anyone's property, not if I can help it." Her mind was spinning. She had just been bought. But there was something different in the way the cowboy had spoken to her, something that told her he wasn't like the others. The crowd dispersed slowly, murmuring amongst themselves, and Lily felt the weight of their stares on her back. But the cowboy's presence was a shield, and she felt a flicker of hope. He had made his choice. "Let's get you out of here," he said, his hand on her arm, guiding her away from the auction block and into the fading sunlight. The days that followed were a whirlwind. The cowboy, whose name was Jack, took her to a small ranch just outside Red Mesa. It was modest, but was clean, with a small cabin and a few horses grazing in the distance. He gave her a room of her own, a place to rest and recover from the trauma of being sold like cattle. Jack was nothing like the men who had tried to buy her at the auction. He was patient, kind, and protective. Every day, he made sure she had what she needed. He taught her how to ride, how to handle the cattle, and how to live in the harsh, beautiful landscape of the West. But as the days turned into weeks, Lily began to realize something deeper. She wasn't just safe with Jack. She was starting to care for him in a way she hadn't expected. His presence gave her peace, and when he smiled at her, something stirred in her heart that made her feel more alive than she had ever felt before. And one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the desert, Jack turned to her. "You're not just my responsibility anymore, Lily," he said quietly, his voice low and earnest. "You're my choice." Lily's heart skipped a beat. She had never been anyone's choice before. But with Jack, she was more than just a victim of circumstance. She was his, in the truest sense of the word. The cowboy who had bought her, the man who had changed her life, now held her heart in his hands.